And the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. And let's go around the room and introduce ourselves as the PSTA board members. Do we have anybody watching virtually or anybody participating virtually? I don't think so, no.
We don't have any board members. I think there's some people.
All right. Well, I am Pat Gerard, Chair of County Commissioner, Chair of PSTA. Sure.
Alan Zimmett, General Counsel, PSTA.
Gina Driscoll, St. Petersburg City Council and Vice Chair of PSTA.
Dan Saraki, City of Oldsmar, council member. Happy holidays, everybody.
Yep.
Happy holidays, Dan.
Vince Cox, Pinellas County.
David Albritton, City of Clearwater Councilman.
Jamie Robinson, Commissioner, City of Largo.
Michael Verdovich, City Councilman, Gulfport.
Jeff Gow, City of Dunedin.
Renee Flowers, Pinellas County Commissioner, and also T. Varda, Representative for PSTA.
Deborah Fix-Sander, St. Petersburg City Council.
I am Richard Bennett. I represent the beach communities.
Josh Schulman, City of St. Petersburg.
Okay.
Brad Miller, PSBA.
Indeed. All right. We are going to wait until Commissioner Long gets here so we can tell her goodbye. But instead, right now, we'll do a PSTA 2021 year in review.
Morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. Please allow me to introduce myself. I am Jackie Haldo, and I'm the Interim Director of Marketing and Communications, stepping in for, but certainly not filling the shoes of Whitney Fox while she is spending quality time with baby Nora. Certainly a highlight of 2021. What a year. PSTA has had great success, even as the COVID pandemic continues to face our employees and our riders. They have continued to adapt and adopt successfully safety measures on board to keep our community safe. Thanks to the dedication and direction from all of you during 2021, our successes include adopting our first sustainability plan, tripled our green electric fleet, donated a bus to Reach St. Pete, and launched a first of its kind in the world PSTA Access Mobility Program, just to name a few. To celebrate our successes on and off the vehicles at PSTA, today we are pleased to share with you a video montage of our highlights of 2021, produced by our very own and very talented videographer, Andrew Holness. Roll the tape, as they used to say.
Completed Sunrunner Station. Move that bus!
right, now is the time for public comment on the consent agenda or items not on the agenda. For those of you who would like to speak about any of the action items, we will give you the opportunity when that item comes up. Please fill out a green card and get it to Rachel or Clarissa in the back of the room. Are there any members of the public here who wish to make a comment? No? Okay then. Okay. Okay, now we're going to deal with the consent agenda. Are there any items that we need to pull? Okay. All right, I will entertain a motion. Okay, did you get that? Okay, can you open the voting system, please? Don't tell me I'm not on there. Okay. I'm a yes. Sorry. Yeah.
I just need Commissioner Flowers. I could do it manually. Is it a yes? Okay.
Okay, that was unanimous. Let's go on to committee updates. Mr. Kovar, could you please do a track update?
Well, I appreciate your attention, and happy holidays to all of you. I'll say again, this will be my last time presenting as my term has run out as the chair of the Transit Rider Committee. So you'll be receiving someone new next month. We had 4 events. We met on November 16th via Zoom, and I'm afraid, due to COVID, we'll be meeting Zoom for quite some while, especially since many of our rider representatives are disabled or vulnerable population, and I miss it. I was president 2 years, and part of it is the camaraderie of getting together and that kind of the side talk. You guys know this, but I don't know that that's going to happen. The 4 things that we did, the first you already just voted on, is we increased our term limits because the Transit Rider Group has changed over time. In the beginning, we just really talked about bus stops and routes, and now we've really become more universal, looking at budgets and all of this stuff, and so we made our terms match yours, which is 8 years. However, that said, I'm still going to step down because I've already made plans to do other things, and I'll come back, don't worry about it. You'll be fine without me. And so I appreciate you guys passing that in the consent agenda. So we're more organized to be like yourselves. The second thing we did was elect new officers. And again, I'll miss you. You guys may remember Mark O'Hara. He was president a couple years ago, left town, came back, and so he will be replacing me. Chelsea Anderson has been my co-chair for my term and will stay on. So that's great. We'll have continuity. And she's a wonderful, wonderful co-chair. We did 2 things. We received a standard update, I think you may have just seen it, about Ava and the Sunrunner. And by the way, I love it. I'm up and down Central Avenue all the time seeing those buses. By the way, the sandwich boards now, wonderful. I'm so proud. I'm so proud to be associated with PSTA. And then the last thing we did, Brad gave us a great update on the infrastructure bill. And again, we aren't just riders complaining about the buses were bumpy. We now have become a group of transit nerds who really understand the nuts and bolts. And so I'm glad to see how just in these 3 years, how that group of folks. So remember, we're there for you. You can call on us to help and to ask, and whatever we can do to help. Our next meeting will be Tuesday, January 28th via Zoom. Tap in. If you can't make it live, every one of them's out on YouTube. So again, it's been my privilege and honor to serve, and it's great to know all of you, and whatever I can do, call on me individually later. Thanks. All have a great, happy holiday.
All right, thank you, Justin.
Thank you, Dan.
Let's hear it for transit nerds.
Exactly.
All right, do you want to go on with committees or just go back to where we?
I think we can go on the committees. And
Okay, next up is local coordinating board update with Ross Silver.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. So the local coordinating board also met the same day as track on November the 16th in downtown Clearwater. And the first thing they did was have Brian Scott reelected to the vice chair position. The chair position is still vacant pending the selection of a local elected official for that position. And then we had a long discussion and a lot of excitement about the talk of finding a way to have the TD, or Transportation Disadvantaged Tampa Bay program, return. This was a project that operated for about 7 months, kind of leading into the COVID period. And then the state removed the funding for this project. It was providing regional paratransit trips to people who are transportation disadvantaged throughout the T-BARTA 5-county service area. There was a lot of excitement about the program, was operating, it was very popular. So it was really unfortunate the funding got removed. But Joe DiDomenico, who's the executive director of the Disability Achievement Center, he did a presentation to us basically saying that the details aren't out yet, but it appears that there is some potential funding coming from the state to get the program reinstated sometime in the near future. So the group is very excited about that and very supportive, and so we're hoping to see that come about soon. If you happen to be in Tallahassee on February the 15th, that is TD Day there, and you can express your support for the program there as well. If, like me, you're not going to be in Tallahassee, then you also can come the same day to the next LCB meeting. That's also February 15th in downtown Clearwater. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Russ. Okay, Commissioner Long, do you have an update on Forward Pinellas?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Well, Forward Pinellas met on November 10th. We had 320 people that attended the Gulf Coast Safe Streets Hybrid Summit on November 2nd through the 4th. Psta gave several presentations, including one on the Track Star Award, which celebrates good pedestrian design and access to transit stops. Psta also hosted an informative bus and walking tour on the Sunrunner construction features related to street design and rider access. The board requested additional construction funding for several projects in the FDOT draft tentative work program, including express lanes, lane continuity improvements, noise walls, and operational improvements for the entire I-275 corridor, 54th Avenue South to Gandy Boulevard. The Waterborne Transportation Committee will meet on December 17th to review a draft countywide policy for waterborne transportation advancement, as well as concepts for investment. On December 10th, which is coming right up at the end of this week, the Suncoast Transportation Planning Alliance and the TMA Leadership Group is hosting a workshop with FDOT on the future of rail in Tampa Bay, and that's going to be over in Hillsborough County at the FDOT headquarters. The next Forward Pinellas board meeting is January 12th, and I also want to let you know that our very own council member, David Albritton, is going to be the new treasurer. Commissioner Cookie Kennedy from Indian Rocks will be the chair. Commissioner Seal is the secretary, and yours truly is the vice chair for next year. Thank you very much.
All right. And Commissioner Flowers, a T-BARTA report.
Good morning, everyone. The meeting was held on November 19th at the West Pasco Government Center. We're trying to just get out around the community so that commissioners who have to travel extensively have an opportunity not to have to travel so far. Brian Passerio and Scott Pringle from WSP, which is the consulting agency that we've been working with regarding our long-term projects, which includes 2030 for our locally preferred route alternatives. I gave a report some time ago when we were trying to determine which routes we would utilize for our RRT bus service, the ones that will provide the greatest amount of service but not be as expensive as some of the other routes, and taking into account Pinellas, Hillsborough, and Pasco counties. So we continue to move forward on that and are hopeful that we will receive the funding now that some things have happened in DC. Commute Tampa Bay reaches over 4,500 members with its new web app, so please feel free to visit. TD Tampa Bay, the presentation that was just held a moment or two prior to mine, provided some after hours and some weekend trips. So that's really good that our transportation disadvantaged individuals will be able to partake in getting where they would like to go. Innovative Transit Technology Study, we've been able to complete that study, and that is a piece that is certainly needed prior to requesting any additional funding from the state as well as the federal government. Projects that are in process include the Pinellas Aerial Gondola, and the beginnings of that will be in downtown St. Petersburg. I have asked on several occasions to make sure that we are addressing moving that gondola component piece into the Midtown area, since we now have the Arts Warehouse District, you have the Dr. Carter G. Woodson Museum in its current location and moving to its new location, and certainly the ARC Innovation Center. And so I think those are areas that need to be encompassed in that. So we'll continue that feasibility study. Psta AVA demonstration project, T-BARTA provided $400,000 towards that, so we remain great partners. The US 19 BRT feasibility study, making sure that we have transportation that's traveling expeditiously up and down the corridor, and that'll help, I think, with a lot of individuals when it comes to some of the higher paying jobs that may not necessarily be located in the heart of some of our cities, but in some of our more rural areas as they travel US 19. And then the Regional Mobility on Demand feasibility study. I think we're doing much better with the timeliness of when persons are able to access public transportation to get to where they need to go, but we can always tighten that up. So I think we're doing pretty good on that. The proposed project that we have is the assessment of the best uses of the CSX corridor. And we've had a lot of conversations about even the rails that have been removed in some communities. In St. Petersburg, all along Gibbs High School, from about 5th Avenue South going to about 34th Street. Some of those rails were either removed or they've grown over. Yeah. And the city has really taken into account some of those easements because rails weren't moving anymore. I think the last time it moved was when the circus visited for its last time in downtown. So that's going to have to be studied and see what we can do. But it seems like CSX is willing to work with us, so I'm excited about that. The Finance Committee recommended a 3% salary increase for our executive director. Policy Committee reports back and forth regarding our federal government legislative asks, and it looks like there may be some movement on that, so we're waiting to see about that. The State Advocacy Services, Representative Jackie Toledo filed a bill early this week requesting $750,000 in operating funds for T-BARTA. I'm not sure who the Senate partner is on that, but I'll certainly look that up and see where we go from that point. Hopefully, we will get some support. We do have a number of persons on T-BARTA who have not only been working with the House and the Senate, but also personal relationships with the governor, so we'll see what happens there. Our next board meeting is scheduled for January 21st at 10 o'clock at the Manatee County Administration Building. Feel free to join us if you like. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to backtrack a little bit. And as some of you know, as all of you know who have served with her, Commissioner Long has an incredible passion for transportation in Pinellas County and for PSTA. She served as chair of PSTA in 2018 and 2019 and is the longtime chair of the Legislative Committee. And while this is her last PSTA meeting for a while, PSTA requires 4 county commissioners to serve, so she'll be back. And, and Brad would like to say a few words.
I would.
Okay.
So, every time I pass a lifetime bus pass to a longtime board member that's departing, it's always kind of sad for me. But this one is particularly bittersweet, to say the least. So I really hope you do come back. As we all know, Commissioner Long, one of the things I think that she has shown incredible leadership and really being an incredible PSTA board member because not just of what she has done here, on Wednesday mornings on the dais. But every other day of the week of the entire year, she is looking out to try to improve our community in every possible way. She is thinking about ways in which we might make new connections, new partnerships, whether it be with other elected officials, other business opportunities we want to have, even possible very talented future employees of PSTA. She's calling me at all hours of the day to suggest different things. It is what she does outside of this building that it has been so impactful, just as much as she's done inside this building. Second, as the chair mentioned, she's really left a lasting impact on our legislative activities at PSTA. More than anything, we are much more advanced, I think, and strategic, and that's all because of her, in what we do in Tallahassee and in Washington, D.C., in how we develop our strategies there. And then my last point is just how much of a mentor she's been to me personally. We've been together a lot over the past several years. We've been up and down lots of things, but I have not learned more from anyone than she on all sorts of things, certainly on the legislative activities, certainly on just how to be a better manager, a better leader of PSTA. I'm very grateful for all the time she's given to me personally and to help me with what we're doing here at PSTA. I know even though you're leaving PSTA, and I really hope you do find your way back on here, that I know that you'll be out there calling me or working on trying to improve transportation in Pinellas County. So thank you very much, Commissioner. We will miss you.
Well, thank you, everyone. Brad, especially for those lovely words. I'll make sure to put you on my list of references for future. I have enjoyed my time on PSTA. For me, it has been a personal mission, not just for myself, but because, in case you haven't noticed, I'm not the youngest person on this board. And I have a beautiful family with little itty babies. I have my first great-grandson to look out for, and everything I do here is for them. Because all the decisions we make in an agency like this are not for the moment. They're for what you want this community to be 50 years from now. And PSTA has had some real hurdles to overcome, especially after the failure of Greenlight. But we have turned the agency around together with the board, and I'm leaving a very strong board behind me, and I hope you'll continue with the initiatives that we have going, because I think the future is very, very bright. Lots of opportunities and a lot of really good plans to bring forth, but make no mistake, it's like birthing a baby. Seriously. It took us 6 years to get the Sunrunner line up and running and actually becoming a reality. And if you think about how quickly the world is changing, especially as it relates to technology, it's as transformational for transportation as when we went from the horse and buggy to the Model T. And so think about that, because that's what you are all charged to make sure we're paying attention to. We cannot let the feds or the state take 25 or 30 years to put a project in place when every 6 months technology is changing how we do things and how we think. So please keep that in mind till I can come back and remind you again, because I'm not going away. I'm just taking a sabbatical. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Well, thank you, Commissioner. You're welcome. All right. I'll give you a chance to sit down. Okay, and next on the agenda is our 5-year Gillig bus purchase. This is indeed a historic action we're taking this morning, and Debbie Leos is going to show us how the recent federal bipartisan infrastructure bill is going to help us achieve this. Debbie?
Thank you so much, and today truly is an historic day for PSTA. And it wouldn't be happening with, as Commissioner Long said, without a lot of planning ahead of time, without the support of the board. For many years, Commissioner Long has been talking about resiliency and how we have to plan for the future, for children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, et cetera. So today truly is historic, and if you could go to the next slide. You know, this was very good timing. The infrastructure, bipartisan infrastructure bill came right before we met with the Finance Committee, and also right before Commissioner Long's birthday. I think I called her and said that was her birthday present. And the $1.2 trillion portion of it is going to come to public transit. So with this, I am extremely confident that we will be able to meet our bus replacement plan over the next 5 years. Next slide, please. Under the leadership of Henry Lukasik and Al Burns, our highly motivated procurement director, who led the statewide procurement for electric buses, we took a look at what was offered, and we have selected and are recommending Gillig buses, all green, all electric, along with the depot chargers, and we will be using this contract to procure up to 60 buses over the next 5 years. Now, we won't be buying them all at once. We want to space them out so that we have a very thoughtful replacement plan. And we will be doing it based on the amount of grant funding we have in place at any given time. This is historic in the fact that not only are we moving forward with 60 all-green electric buses, zero emission, but we will also be placing the first order of any of the transit agencies on this procurement for 24 buses, buying 2 years' worth of buses at one time with grant funds that we have in place. So we will be seeing 12 electric buses being received by the end of 2023 and another 12 by the end of 2024. You may notice the bus in the picture when you came in this morning is sitting outside. So I would invite you after the meeting today to go back outside and take a look at this beautiful bus, very quiet for those who like to sit outside and have a nice meal in downtown St. Pete or other areas of the community. And so with the next slide, please. Today's action item, we are going to be looking to purchase 60 zero-emission buses from Gillig LLC, 60 depot chargers with a total amount not to exceed $80 million. I believe we have Butch Sibley here today. I don't know if he's sitting outside in the crowd. There he is. Thank you, Butch, from Gillig, who is here today, who can probably tell any one of you anything you wanted to know about the bus that is sitting outside. In addition, Henry is here to answer any questions if you have any. And I would also like to mention that the Finance Committee reviewed this and unanimously approved this procurement for our buses. Any questions from the board? Yes,
Commissioner Long.
Madam Chair? Oh, it's on.
Yes, ma'am.
Debbie, thank you for that presentation. I'm really, really ecstatic at the work that has been done on this. And before I get to my question, can I just take one moment, because in my emotional thing, I forgot to thank the amazing staff at PSTA for the hard work they've done to get us to where we need to be today, because while we focus up here on policy, it's all of you that are doing the work, and you've got a great team, Brad. Thanks to your leadership, the agency is very solid. back to my question. We had a purchase issue on our agenda at our county commission meeting yesterday. And imagine my chagrin that in all of these numbers of electric vehicle we are replacing, very, very few of them were electric. So when I asked the question about why we weren't doing more of that, the response I received was a bit disheartening because according to county administration, the infrastructure is not there to support that huge of a purchase. So how are we doing it here at PSTA? Because you certainly don't have the capacity that we do in the county.
We have a great partnership with Duke Energy, and they are very well aware of this procurement and our overall long-term goals, and are working with us to improve our infrastructure as we get additional buses in here to be able to do this.
And you're confident that the infrastructure will be in place in the timeframes that you've outlined here?
Yes.
Now, I have one more question, if I may, Madam Chair. What about the manufacturer? Are you seeing that there's going to be a real rub there in terms of their being able to produce these vehicles in the time limit that they're telling you?
I do not see any, and Henry, I don't know that.
Morning.
Morning.
Actually, quite the contrary. We're finding out that the lead time to produce all electric buses is right on point in terms of supply chain. It's actually combustion engine buses that are taking longer to receive due to supply issues.
It's the what?
Combustion buses, diesel buses, CNG buses are actually taking longer due to supply chain issues as opposed to all electric buses.
Thank you so much. And for my colleagues on the county commission, please keep what they just said in mind, because I do think that we can do a better job than what we're trying to do. Not us, our county commission group. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions? Commissioner Robinson, there you go.
Thank you. And this is really probably more for my personal edification, but the buses that we're purchasing now, or that we plan on purchasing, the 60 buses, I believe, are all going to be plug-in, and with the possibility of changing to inductive wireless in the future as that becomes more proliferant. How big of a process is it to change, or is there any change to go from the inductive or from the plug-in to inductive?
That's an excellent question. With all electric vehicles, primary recharging will always occur here at the facility.
Okay.
The inductive system is utilized as an opportunity to prolong the range while out in service. To answer your question, the buses are capable of having inductive wireless components mounted underneath of them, so they can all be inductive capable. Probably within the next 10 to 15 years, maybe sooner, we hope, because battery chemistry is always changing, that perhaps opportunity charging will not be needed because the range of these electric buses will increase over time to be comparable to a traditional bus.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. And not related to that, but to Commissioner Long's statement, the city of Largo has a 100% alternative fuel vehicle policy in place, and have had for a couple of years now, so it's possible.
Don't worry.
All right.
I use you as an example
Thank you.
in all of my conversations with our folks. And thank you for that.
You're welcome.
You've been a leader in our community.
We're trying.
And I hope you've got our next climate summit on your calendar, because we're going to be featuring you as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Commissioner Driscoll.
Thank you. So the funding for this is subject to available FTA funds. Brad, could you talk about that a little,
Yeah.
And what that timeline might look like?
Certainly. We currently, like I said, we currently have sufficient funding to do the first order. We get grant funding every single year that we will be putting towards buses as we go forward. As you recall from a previous presentation, there was about a $30 million delta that we still need to meet to be able to buy all 60 within the 5 years. And with the infrastructure bill, that is going to give us that opportunity. There's a significant amount of money that is within that infrastructure bill that is for alternative fueled vehicles, such as the zero-emission electric buses, as well as for infrastructure. So we are really, truly poised, having this procurement in place to move forward, with working with Duke Energy to be able to handle all this. And I think we're in a great competitive situation to be able to achieve the goal.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Maybe,
sure.
if I could just add to that. So at our Psta Legislative Committee, we heard from our Washington DC lobbyists that Congress delayed on approving their fiscal year 22 budget, which started on October 1st. As always, they delayed and did a continuing resolution that goes to February 18th, I think, of 2022. So that is delaying the rollout of all of the funds that we're counting on in the bipartisan infrastructure law until they can approve the budget. But as Debbie said, any bus we buy, we will only buy with grants that we already have in hand or have been earmarked for us specifically. So we have enough to buy the first 2 years of the 5. You know, it's not beyond Congress to delay 2 years, but hopefully they can get their act together, and by then they'll approve the budget, and then the money will be there. So we feel pretty good.
Okay, and is there a time frame by which the infrastructure bill funding will have to be spent? Because right now you're talking about was it 12 per year for 5 years?
Yes.
From what you're seeing, is that in line with what the
Yes.
deadline is for spending?
Yes.
Okay.
That the excitement of the passing of the bipartisan infrastructure law was that the formula funding increases in that the PSDA will receive once the budget is approved in DC are enough to close that $30 million gap that Debbie was talking about. So we will have enough funding in sort of the base formula allocation funding that we expect to receive to support replacing, and remember, these are all replacement of our oldest diesel buses in the fleet, some 16, 17 years old. So these are all replacement over that 5-year period of time. And we will be able to replace those diesel buses with all electric buses.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, got it, thank you.
This is very exciting. Okay,
Yes.
any other questions?
If I could also just comment to Commissioner Long's point about the infrastructure. I mean, it is certainly true that the infrastructure of electric vehicles is very important to plan and consider. And I really want to thank Henry and the staff and folks in Abhishek's group in project management. As we saw last month, there was a presentation on our plans to put solar panels on the Psta building, and that is all part of the planning and design for the infrastructure needed at Psta to handle these electric buses. We are working very hard to make sure that that is available when these buses arrive.
Great.
Yeah.
Could I, Madam Chair?
Please.
Could I speak to that for 1 minute, what Brad just said? Not that I'm trying to be self-serving with this thought. However, it does occur to me that in Pinellas County, we only have 2 supercharging stations for electric vehicles. And I am wondering, just an opportunity, Brad, if there's a way to partnership with, for example, Tesla, to help speed up putting the infrastructure in place. And Why I think that's so really important, besides the fact that we have a lot more electric vehicles on the road today, and you know that just from driving around, I worry about the public safety issue of moving people off of Pinellas County in the event of a hurricane or an unknown, something disaster type thing that happens, and we need to be able to get people either over the bridge or up off through the north or south away from here. And so in a conversation I had with our Duke person that is our liaison to the county, he indicated that they were very, very concerned about the infrastructure on our interstates. And for those of us, Renee, you sit on T-BARTA, I think that's a good option for T-BARTA and any of the transit agencies in our county to be thinking about ways in which we can form these partnerships with the manufacturers of some of these vehicles and help them help us. Just an idea.
That's a great idea, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, Josh.
Thank you. And along those lines, at our meeting last month when we were talking about solar, I may have been at the committee level, I brought up our park and ride locations, that potentially presents an opportunity to add charging locations for commuters and for the county to use that space, then transfer to buses for other transit options. So maybe even encourage people to use transit if they can get charging at our park and ride locations. So there are opportunities. We just have to think a little bit more creatively about them.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? If not, I will entertain a motion for this purchase.
This is with Gillick LLC, not to exceed $80 million. That's what, 80,000.
80,000.
I wish. $80 million.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Flowers, second from Commissioner Gao. Can you open the voting thing, please?
Oh, yeah, public comment.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do we have any public comment? I guess not. Okay, we'll close the public hearing then. All right.
My voting card hasn't come up, Rachel, but I'm a yes. What?
You're up there.
It's all right.
It's not on my, I don't have any place to put. Push.
Join the meeting.
I did it manually, so we're.
I think we're good. Is that everyone? Oh. Okay. I think that's unanimous then. Yay. Okay. Next up, we have our supervisor's union contract with James Bradford's going to give us an update on that.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning to you, Chair Gerard, Chief Miller, our distinguished board members, and happy holidays, everyone. I forget sometimes. It's December. Christmas is right around the corner. Commissioner Long, miss you terribly. Of course, very grateful for absolutely everything. We can go ahead and go to our starting slide, whoever the magic person is behind the counter. And it's not that slide. Let's back it up a little bit. I'm used to controlling my own. One more forward. And while they're figuring out where my starting slide is, I'm here today to ask for you all's approval of our year 2, year 3 contract. That's still not the first slide, please. For our supervisors. I came before you all in August of 2020 for our supervisor contract to seek your approval. It was for working conditions and mainly policy and procedure. At that time, we only got approval for year 1 wages, and after that, we worked on the larger union, which is our frontline union, of almost 500 men and women for bus operators, mechanics, customer service reps. And I brought that to you this past August. So I did want to distinguish between the two. This is for our supervisors, who there are 30 people total between maintenance and transportation. And this particular item is for their wage increases for years 2 and 3, which would go retro back to this October 1st, 2021. We did present this before the Finance Committee in the month of November, and that was unanimously approved. And the SEIU group took it to a vote of their members, and they approved this new contract for their wage increases of a vote of 24-1. As we always do, our main objectives when we get into our negotiating with our supervisors, Psta always looks at fiscal sustainability. We look at our ability to be competitive. We try to see what our peers are doing with nearly 32 other Florida agencies. We try to make sure we stay in line with them. SEIU, when they come to the bargaining table, they also want to be competitive. They want to make sure they're not being underpaid when compared to their peers, but they also want to be fair and competitive and, and get as good an increase as they can, especially as it balances out with the cost of living increases in the area. So where I'll just do this from memory, where we landed on was 3.5% increase for our transportation supervisors in years 2 and 3. We're budgeted for 23 transportation supervisors who oversee our daily fixed route operations mainly for our bus operators, of nearly 400 bus operators. And then for our 6 maintenance supervisors, they're going to receive a 3% increase annually for years 2 and 3. And then we'll be back at the tables to do it all over again. I might add, in addition, there are some boosters available in here. And what I mean by that is if I'm a maintenance supervisor, I'm getting 3% automatically in years 2 or 3. I do have an opportunity with Henry's group to become ASC certified. Up to 8 different certifications available worth 25 cents each, which would give them another $2 over their rates. And that's alone is worth a 6 to 7% increase in addition to their 3%. We also made adjustments in year 3 to 6 of our supervisors who will receive a 6% increase in years 3. And what that is doing is to help with pay parity. So there was a gap between the senior supervisors and the junior supervisors. In order to close that gap in years 3, we selected the 6 folks who we believe were underpaid compared to their seniors. And so that helped close that margin a little bit. If we go to the next slide, if it's up there, just to kind of show you how we compare in the region. Psa is about in the middle of the pack, as you can see with the transportation supervisors. Their rate this year, it will go back to retro to October 1st, will be $30.42. And then next year, it has surpassed $31. And again, they have an opportunity through another package we offered them to complete some additional trainings. And if they do, they'll get an additional 1%. So they'll be good for about 4.5% if they complete everything. And if you look at the maintenance supervisors, same thing. They're in the middle of the pack for the most part, right there compared to some of the other agencies with the information we were able to get at $32.16 this year, and then they'll surpass $33 next year. And again, they have an opportunity to boost their wages upwards of 25 cents per 8 certifications, upwards of $2. So to review, to summarize, your approval here today will represent the final step in full ratification for this contract addendum. And again, this is just for our 30 supervisors, and this is just for their wage increases for years 2 and 3 of their contract, not to be confused with our larger union, which we presented before you this past August. If we go to that last slide, that summary slide, I believe that was it. And again, I'll mention SEIU, the group voted it through 24-1. And then again, today will be the final step in getting this done. I'm going to stop it there and take any questions you all may have for me.
Okay. Do we have any questions? Commissioner Fredovich.
What is the difference between supervisors and line workers?
It's between the lowest paid, the junior supervisors, and then the top paid. So for example, for maintenance, the top paid technician 3s with all their ASC certifications, it's probably 1% to 2% at the very top. The supervisors have a chance to increase that margin if they take advantage of the ASCs and push it upwards of 5%. And then it's the same thing for transportation supervisors. A top-rate bus operator makes probably about 5% less than the lowest paid transportation supervisor. So the margin's not that wide.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Schulman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And this really isn't a question. It's a point that I brought up at the Finance Planning Committee meeting. While I'm in favor of this agreement, I struggle with the fact that the cost of living for the Tampa Bay area year over year has increased 6.1%. As of September, it was 6.6 in August, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So if we're increasing pay by 3.5%, our employees are falling behind in their ability to live their lives and pay for the things that they need. So I think it's important. No one when negotiating these contracts expected such high inflation. And when we've talked about regional pay equity, internal pay equity, competitive hiring, all of these sorts of things that we need to not only approve this contract, but then you look really hard at our budget and see if there's an opportunity to boost all of our employees so that they remain competitive as a one-time event. So it's an important piece to make sure that our employees are being rewarded for the work that they're doing and the challenging environment that we're all living in. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you, Commissioner. And Commissioner Schulman, and we've talked about this in finance. I completely agree. It is important with the nature of this market and seeing folks having more choice and leaving jobs. You don't want to increase folks and during a shortage, call on folks to work 40 to 60 hours a week, and then they're still not making ends meet with that. So I think looking forward, we want to do a better job being partnered up with the union to make sure what is the local market doing, how is the cost of living increasing, and then what is our ability to kind of keep step with that so we don't fall too far behind. So thank you. I completely agree.
Thank you.
Okay, Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve.
Oh, wait, hold on a second. Oh. Commissioner Flowers. Sorry, I didn't see that.
Just, I really do appreciate the hard work that you guys are putting into it. Josh, I completely agree with what it is that you're saying because we've noticed every year we try to close that gap, but then those outside influences occur and it makes it more difficult. But I also want to say that I'm really appreciative of the unions and the fact that they are understanding the entire picture as it relates to increase in salary or benefits, and that they're willing to work and have that hard conversation. And it's that give and take that allows us to do this and move. And then when we see that there are perhaps some additional revenue where we could make some tweaks, if that occurs, and those tweaks can be maintained budgetarily, then I'm happy to see that as well. But I just wanted to acknowledge that because I know it's a difficult time. Last year was difficult, but to be able to provide some modicum of an increase, I think is really constructive. It helps with morale. It shows that we're really trying, but it also shows on behalf of the union that they're a part of the conversation and they understand the difficulty as well. So I just wanted to share that. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments? Do we have any public comment? I'm guessing no.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve wage increases for years 2 and 3 of the current labor agreement for PSTA's Florida Public Services Union, SEIU, for supervisor employees. And again, James, great job.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. We have a motion from Commissioner Saraki, second from Commissioner Flowers. Can you open the voting system, please? Oops. Too many computers here.
It worked. It worked for everybody.
Okay, is that everybody?
Yeah.
And that is unanimous.
Good.
I want to say thank you, commissioners, and wishing you all a very happy, peaceful, and restful holiday period until we see you again next year. Take care.
Thank you, James. All right, we have another initiative that we've been working on, which is an exciting partnership with Pinellas County Schools, and we have, that's not Heather, Heather Sober.
She's on the Zoom.
Oh, okay, all right. Heather, go ahead.
Hi, so this is an action item to approve an agreement between Pinellas County Schools and PSTA for a two-part partnership, including UPass for most students. Actually, next slide. Including UPass for most students and staff, and a pilot with 3 high schools that would involve students riding buses to and from school on PSTA buses. Next slide. So just a little background to start. At PSTA, we operate 44 bus routes that travel primarily on major roadways throughout Pinellas County, whereas Pinellas County Schools operates around 390 routes that travel in and out of neighborhoods to pick up students. Pinellas County Schools, just like school systems and transit agencies across the country, including PSTA, has been facing driver shortages. One of the major problems this causes for the schools is that students get to school late or home much later than they should in the evening. Another need Pinellas County Schools has identified is for transportation for students who stay after school for activities or tutoring. Next slide, please. So the first part of this agreement includes the UPass program, which would allow most of the 35,000 plus students and staff to ride PSTA for free, including any routes at any time beginning in January 2022. In the first year, there would be no cost to Pinellas County Schools, with that cost escalating beginning with $10,000 in the 2022-2023 school year. And this picture on the right that you see is from the announcement of a similar partnership that we have with USF. And then we also have a longtime UPass partnership with St. Petersburg College. Next slide, please. The second part of this agreement includes a high school pilot where some students would be assigned by the Transportation Office of Pinellas County Schools to a PSTA route. Now, this has been a little bit of a challenging idea, but it is really the most important part to help address some of the issues with driver shortages. The image you see down below on the right is PSTA's Route 34, which, as you can see, travels pretty much in a straight line up and down 34th Street. And then on the left is a map of all of the bus routes that serve Gibbs High School. They travel out from the high school in all directions and travel into neighborhoods. Next slide, please. So the concept here is that students from each of these schools, the schools are Dunedin High, Largo High, and Gibbs High. They would be assigned to PSTA routes by the Transportation Office. And then because of the way the routes work, let's just for example, 5 students that might be assigned to one PSTA route might come from 5 different yellow school bus routes. So therefore, the school system would likely need to redraw some of their routes to maximize the loads and save a couple of buses per year, which is estimated at about 1 to 2 per high school. Other components include PSTA working to coordinate bus schedules with bell times and partnering with Pinellas County Schools on education materials, which actually we've already begun doing. Jackie's been working with the communications department at the school system. Next slide, please. So today's action, it would be for you all to approve the agreement. And then the next step would be to take this agreement to the Pinellas County School Board for review and approval at their December 14th meeting. And I understand that both Brad and Commissioner Flowers will be in attendance for that. And then upon approval, we will launch the UPass in January 2022. And then the next school year in August 2022, the high school pilot would begin. And I will turn it back to the chair for any questions.
Okay. Any question? Let me see. Commissioner Long.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I remember when we first started talking about this, Brad, it was about 3 years ago?
Yeah.
At least 3 years ago. Well, you know, things march slowly forward, but I'm curious about why it is that we are picking up the total expense for this, given the huge budget that the Pinellas County schools have for their buses. I mean, we're saving them money, which is great for them,
We are.
but shouldn't we be contracting with them so that they pay us a little bit?
Yeah, so the idea is that in this first year, we're just doing the U-Pass, and so that's just January to August. And then starting with the next school year, it would be $10,000 for them, and then we'll work to evaluate, you know, how it's working. And then each year after would escalate. I think it's like $12,500 in the next year. And so we would start to get additional funding from them.
Right. And technically, the program that we've laid out here is not costing PSTA really anything. Now, we are technically losing a potential $2 when a student rides and doesn't pay the fare, but the vast majority of those are not riding today, so that's not really any lost revenue. And then the idea about these three high schools, to pick these three high schools as pilots, is because we already have PSTA bus routes that go right by them. So there's really no significant expense to start. Now, if this really takes on, which we hope it will, and more high schools are added or more services are added, and we have to add buses then to carry the students, then yes, then the school district would have to pay for that. Yeah.
So I think that's great. I'm curious about how or if we have the ability to document how many students are using it. And then my second question is, how are we marketing this through the schools so that the kids know they can get on the bus?
It's a good question. As Heather noted, we've already started working with Pinellas County School marketing PR people on announcing this and getting this out. Of course, it's a major communications effort to promote the U-Pass this coming spring to get people to try it. That's for all students and faculty across the whole county at any school. And so that hopefully will catch on pretty quickly, the benefits of that. It was very successful at St. Pete College when we did that, and then also at USF, St. Pete. So I'm hopeful, I'm confident that will be a success. Then the next piece will be specifically for these three high schools as a pilot to start next summer when they're getting ready for school to start in the fall. There'll be specific communications to the students assigned to the PSTA buses to ride those instead of a yellow bus if they want to get a ride to school. And the school district has that sort of system already in place on how they do that. So I think it's good. I will say that I have a little in. My sophomore daughter is a new journalist for the St. Pete High newspaper, and I pitched that we would send her the press release on this when we get that done. So we got one marketing avenue, I think, sewn up.
Okay, great.
And we'll also work directly with, through the principals and guidance counselors.
Right. Okay, Commissioner Cox. Yep.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And an observation that I want to make sure we're putting in a safety component here for these riders, because I believe, Mr. Zimmett, we did have a lawsuit maybe 15 or 20 years ago for a child that was getting off a bus at that point. It was Southside Fundamental. It's now Midtown Academy. And he crossed in front of the bus and got hit by a car, and he became paralyzed too, below the waist. And we did.
You have a good memory.
Yeah, thanks. My wife tells me that too. And But that being said, I just want to make sure we do have safety components in place for education and driver awareness and so on and so forth. It's a lot different than a regular school bus because, you know, you get the red arm that goes out, traffic stops, so on and so forth. So that's my thought. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Robinson.
Thank you. So normally when a student is riding the yellow school bus, that bus is going into the neighborhoods, which obviously PSTA doesn't generally do as much. So what do we do? How is that going to work for these students if they're, you know, on our limited routes and getting them closer to their home? Or what does that look like from the school board's perspective to pick the correct students so they're not having to walk a mile or 2 miles after they get off of PSTA's bus? I mean, that's obviously the exact purpose of school buses.
Yeah.
Yeah, in our early conversations with them, the students that would be assigned to these routes would be ones that live adjacent to the corridors that we travel. It wouldn't be someone a mile away. It would be the most logical, closest students. There'd be education about using the crosswalks and all of those things as well.
Okay, thank you. And I'm, you know, as a graduate of Largo High School some years back, I'm happy to see that we're a part of that pilot program. There is a PSTA bus stop right in front of Largo High School on Missouri Avenue, so glad to be a part of that. And this is a great program. I think it's, you know, whatever we can do to ease transportation throughout Pinellas County, which is, I guess, our goal, is a great job. So thank you for working in accomplishing this. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, one other note about Largo is they also have really great crossing guards.
Yeah, because they're hired. They're from the city of Largo.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Mr. Schulman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to actually just comment right after Commissioner Robinson's point. Something to keep in mind is that many of the fundamental and magnet programs require parents to transport their students to the bus stop. So often those bus stops are across major roads in highly congested areas. So as the pilot expands, a natural fit would be fundamental magnet programs where the parents are already doing that activity to get them to one of our routes. So that solves the problem there. I am beyond excited for this, and when we were listening to the presentation again, I was thinking back to something Commissioner Long had said during her comments earlier, that the decisions we make here impact our community for the next 50 years. And this is one of those decisions. Yes, we're looking at easing transportation issues now. Yes, the school board's interested in doing it because they have a driver shortage and there's financial issues. But the heart of it for me is that we are training a future generation of transit riders. We are training kids that are accepting of whatever rules and things we can give to them and say, this is how it works, this is how you use it, and they go, okay, we'll just do that. So that 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, we have a community of people that use transit and see transit, public transit, as a realistic way to move around the county. So outside of the current costs, I think there's a huge value. I do want to make sure from our public outreach that we are communicating with PTAs because we can give all the materials to students that we want. Anyone who's a parent knows that probably about 15% of those materials actually get in front of parents.
Yep.
But it's the parents that are going to have the most questions. It's the parents that are going to have the most concerns. You know, I would encourage having presentations at PTA meetings to also show parents how partial transit rides can work, right? The bus may not go from point A to point B, but point A to A1 is really close to the house, and so you can pick your child up instead of driving across county to do things, right? So you can get them 80 to 90% of the way, and instead of Uber being the last mile, parents can be the last mile, but that's something that parents might not think of if they're not transit riders, is how to do that within their own environment. So it's something that I've been screaming about since I got here on day one, and I'm very pleased to see it moving forward. I know that there's going to be hiccups. One other point that we're talking about when it came to keeping track of kids on the bus is we also have the flamingo fares. So at some point, as that gets updated, parents will, using the same login on the Flamingo app, would be able to know when a child scanned on a bus. So there are opportunities for parents to actually have more information about where their kids are as it relates to transit versus a school bus than they have now. I know, we'll get a text message saying that the school bus is an hour late, which is fantastic because our child's not on the bus. So that doesn't really apply. But this would be real-time information wherever they are. So if they're using it on the weekends, if they want to use it for extracurricular activities, it is a tremendous value both today and training for the future. So I will stop there, and hopefully my excitement for this came through. Thank you.
Even through the mask. Commissioner Flowers.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm super excited. I know Josh has been talking with me about this, even for students with disabilities being able to catch the bus. And we talked about this quite a bit when I had the pleasure of serving on the school board. Some of our concern back then was liability, potential liability. But you have that in anything that you do, so you can just put as many safeguards in place as you possibly can. A lot of students currently utilize PSTA bus. So while we are looking at the 3 high schools, we do have a number of students who utilize the bus because they have entered into one of the programs throughout the county. It is very early when they have to get up. And so it does assist with getting them to that particular school if the parents aren't able to do so. I think Commissioner Cox will be able to aid in decreasing the potential for incidents because that was a middle schooler. I remember that incident. I was on city council and there was some concern because it happened in the city and, it was on our street. So I do remember that very, very well. That was a hard case. I also think that this will support some of the students' ability to have greater access to the schools they want to go to. We've gone to community schools, but there are some students who like to go somewhere else, but transportation was the issue. And Pinellas County Schools does not provide that transportation to its fundamental programs. And so this will help. And it will also help with the number of drivers that they're down. The reason the routes are late in the afternoon is because there are not enough drivers to pick up those high school routes and to get back on their route in time for the afternoon pickups, which is your elementary, then your middle school. So it'll help with that. I'm excited about going with Brad to the meeting on the 14th, and I think we'll be met with positive affirmation. I don't think there will be a problem with pulling the data for how many students utilize that UPass and being able to extrapolate those numbers, say every 3 months on a quarterly basis so we can see what the ridership looks like since this is a pilot. And the last thing I want to say is for communications, Pinellas County Schools uses Peach Jar. They don't send on flyers anymore. They use Peach Jar, which the parents get access to that. So it comes in your email. You can see them, and most all of us have that little phone. And the other is through Dojo. And they've had greater accessibility and interaction from parents because it's using technology to get that information out. And plus, when they have their back-to-school fairs, their open houses, and all of that, this information will be a part of that for those 3 schools. So I think that will certainly should give some level of comfort when we're talking about how the information will get out and persons will know that this is accessible. And lastly, just education, because again, some people look at public transportation as transportation for a certain group of people, and it's not. When you go up north, a majority of their students, even the little ones, because it scares me when I see those little kids getting on the bus, but they teach me how to ride the bus when I go out of town. So a majority of individuals are using public transportation for those communities that aren't smaller, that do have their own bus transit system for their local schools. So I'm excited. I'm so glad for you, Joshua, because I know you've been talking to me about this for a long time. And I'm really excited that the school board is willing to move forward. And hopefully this will work and we'll be able to just expand it beyond its current measures for just the 3 high schools.
Well, I'm very excited about this too. I think this will be the best thing we could do to start indoctrinating people who don't normally ride the bus and how to ride the bus and how, and have them thinking about that as an option, even their parents, not just the kids, but the parents. Because so many older kids that I know these days don't want to don't want to have the expense of a car, they don't want to have to maintain a car, and this is great. I'm very happy. Commissioner, oh, hold on, Commissioner, yes, Commissioner Schulman, did you have something else?
I just wanted to make a motion to approve.
Oh, okay,
If we're so ready, I don't know.
oh, shoot.
I had one thing I wanted to
Commissioner
mention.
Long, go ahead.
Yeah, well, it is more than exciting. It's just an opportunity to, as Commissioner Schulman and Flowers already stated, as well as Gerard, you're talking about really changing the culture of an entire society, especially here in Pinellas County. And, you know, again, it is about the future, and I want to remind everyone that there are many, many parochial and private schools in our county that the bus routes currently go right by. And so there's another opportunity for teaching life skills to our young people that they would not otherwise have. Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'll second the motion if nobody else has.
Okay, and I think that's a great idea if, once we get through a pilot, to start talking to the private schools as well. Oh, sorry, Commissioner Driscoll.
Thank you. How long will the pilot program go? And when might we receive a report on the status or the progress of the pilot program?
I think the agreement,
Is it one school year and then?
yeah,
Okay.
at the end of every year, I think the agreement calls for, at least at that frequency, to give a report on, after the first year, after the second year.
Okay.
The third year.
And at that point, we would determine any adjustments that would be made and then possible like expansion?
Right, but I would imagine we would give more frequent
When does it stop being a pilot
updates.
program and become what we do?
Yes, that's the goal, is that the pilot becomes a permanent program, permanent relationship with the Pinellas County Schools. But I would imagine that we'll certainly provide more frequent than annual updates to the PSDA board. And then we'll have to kind of work out exactly what information we report to and how we report to the school district too.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay, great.
thank you.
But at first, all high school students will have a UPass, right?
It's all students.
All students and all, oh,
Yeah,
wow,
and faculty.
okay, that's a lot.
Yeah, and that goes into effect on January 1st, so not everybody in Pinellas County will know about it on January 1st, I doubt it, but they'll get
It'll
it.
be a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
Commissioner
know
Dale.
the school board, or the school system is working on a press release, so we should be seeing that soon. So there'll definitely be some media around this as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Gale.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, just basically, I agree with everything that's been said in the room. Just a real concern to me is we really do need to have that data more than annually, so quarterly would be wonderful. Just a data dump so we can see where the numbers are. And because of the conversation in the room and the importance of this pilot program, I'd like to see a detailed marketing plan rollout on exactly what we're doing, because the communication, the marketing on this is going to be key to the success. And to make sure that we are pushing it forward, we should be finding ways to make sure that this is successful and not just let's see if it works out kind of attitude, that we really need to be focused to make sure that it is successful. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Schulman? Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Robinson.
Thank you. Just real quick, for the UPass, does it cover charter school students as well? I mean, because they kind of fall under the Pinellas County School Board, so.
Heather, do you know that?
I don't think so. I think it's just the main schools.
Yeah, Pinellas County Schools does not provide transportation for charter school or voucher school children.
Correct.
So if PSTA decides that they want to extend that,
That was,
ask
yeah, right.
to them, that's up to this board and the director. But within the sphere of anything that,
No, I understand the makeup of the charter school being, you know, my kids have gone to charter schools their entire career, but, So, but that's my concern is we have a large group of kids who are going to a somewhat public school and, you know, the options, obviously the reasoning for the UPass is to be able to provide transportation for those public school kids. And I think, I don't know if it's something that we want to wait until maybe we're through the pilot and see how everything works, but I think it would make sense to expand that to at least charter school students, if not then, you know, the private schools as well. I think a lot of, you see the same issues arising from charter school parents as you do public school parents. I mean, they're transportation disadvantaged. They're unable to get their kids to, you know, a charter school on the other side of the county at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning, whatever that looks like. So, you know, I think this is a great opportunity to reach out and provide services to those students as well.
I think that's a good point.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to share, though, that charter schools and voucher schools don't receive those transportation dollars, so that for the pilot project, that may work. But as this report shares, that going forward, it would be 10,000 and then ramped up from that point. Then it would be up to that charter school, if we're going to treat them fairly.
Yeah.
If we're going to treat all of them fairly, it would be that charter school would then have to figure out within their budget how they would then be able to extrapolate dollars to pay into the program. So we certainly could look at those numbers. I mean, it's up to the finance committee, I'm sorry, and then I guess the planning committee, to see, to know where those charter schools are located, the voucher programs, and then, you know, determine the numbers and all that good stuff. So it's worth doing, but you just have to, going forward after the pilot, see how they're gonna be able to pay into that, because for charter schools and voucher programs, you are required to get your own children there, like you said.
Yes, ma'am.
But they don't receive dollars from, Pinellas County Schools to help pay for the transportation piece, so they just have to figure that out if they wanted to participate.
That's great.
But the charter schools could contact PSTA and talk
Yes.
about working out a
And that's what I was gonna say. I mean, it sounds like it's certainly a possibility. I think we would just want to check with Pinellas County Schools about it. And I do also know, I was just thinking, I know we already have UPass agreements with individual charter schools now. And so, as Commissioner Flowers said, maybe let us talk to Pinellas County Schools about it a little bit further.
Okay, can we see what that information looks like? If you have a contract with the school, can I see what that information looks like, just for
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, just so I can understand what it looks like and having conversations, because I do discuss, I have a lot of conversations with board members from different charter schools throughout the county.
The Pinellas County School contract is in your packet there, and it's pretty much the exact same agreement we have with all of our, like with St. Pete College and USF and everybody.
And the charter schools as well?
It would be similar.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I think Mr. Zimmett has something to say.
Yeah, I just wanted to make 2 points on that comment. We would need to have a separate agreement with each charter school, because they are separately run.
Yes.
The school board doesn't operate those schools. And then the second thing, just go back to the question about the term of the agreement. The initial term of the agreement expires on September 30th of next year. So it's not a full year. It'll run for the remainder of the school term through September 30th before a decision will be made to renew. So you'll have data between that and for that time period before any decision to renew the contract.
Okay. Commissioner Schulman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Robinson, I'm so pleased that we're looking to expand the program before we've even gotten out of the gate.
Hey, that's what we're here for.
I'll take whatever else you got. That's fantastic. But I did want to make a comment based on the tracking. So we currently track UPass trips, and bus drivers have the ability, and we'll be marking those rides as the students get on. So just from a planning perspective, I just want to make sure that those UPass trips are not lumped in with the other UPass numbers, so that we truly can see what the differential is from the school. So just wanted to go on record for asking for a separate line item for Pinellas County school riders.
We will work to make that happen. I mean, the one thing we will not have, starting in 2022, I don't think we can do this, we will not know where the kids are riding necessarily. We'll know that like 6 Pinellas County schools use their ID to get on the bus in the route, but that's all we'll know. Right, we won't be able to know, where people are getting on and off.
So when the bus driver indicates that a school member gets on, it doesn't mark below the stop or location at all?
No, it just adds a counter.
Okay. All the more reason to get it integrated with Flamingo Fair
Yeah.
sooner, so we have stop data as well, which would be helpful both to the school board, parents, and us as well.
Yeah.
Brad, just to add to that, we do plan to conduct our next onboard survey in 2023, and so we will also be able to get some data through that.
Oh, that's good, yeah.
Right. Anybody else? Okay. Do we have any public comment? None, okay. I will entertain a motion then.
Madam Chair, I move that we,
Oh, I'm sorry, we had a motion.
Pseudo
Did you get
threw
who?
it out there.
Yeah,
We already have a
it
second.
was so long ago, I
Commissioner Long
forgot.
seconded.
All right, okay. Please open the voting system. Okay, that is unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, our final action is to approve the board officers and committee appointments for 2022. The nominating committee met on November 15th and is making these recommendations. Brad, would you like to take us through them?
Sure. So the nominating committee made 2 sets of recommendations, and if it's okay with you, I would recommend that the board approve them in 2 separate groups. The first group is the officers for 2022, and I'm grateful that following the tradition of PSTA where officers serve 2-year terms in their roles, the current leaders of PSTA, Chair Pat Gerard, Vice Chair Gina Driscoll, and Secretary Treasurer Dan Saracki have all agreed, and the nominating committee is recommending them to continue for their 2nd year in their leadership positions. In addition, the executive committee, which includes the chair, vice chair, and secretary treasurer of PSDA, plus 2 other members, the past chair, if there is a past chair, and then 1 other member. The recommendations from the nominating committee are for Commissioner Renee Flowers and Commissioner Jamie Robinson to fill the 2 additional seats on the executive committee. And that is shown up on the screen as the sort of the first set of recommendations for the leaders for 2022. Would there be any questions or?
Any questions about that? Any volunteers for chair? Okay.
Nominations from the floor.
Then I will, do we have any public comment on any of this item? Okay. I will entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the officers and the executive committee as stated.
Okay. We have a motion from Commissioner Schulman, second from Commissioner Flowers. Please open the voting system.
Great.
All right, unanimous.
Okay, then on the next slide, if that could be shown. There are 2 rows on this slide. The top row is the committee assignments currently in 2021. And then the bottom row are the recommended assignments of board members to committees for 2022. The ones shown in red are the nominating committee recommendations. Thank you all for filling out your survey and getting it to Rachel, and the nominating committee used those desires to fill out the rosters of the different committees of PSDA. So reading from the left, as we just voted on, the executive committee, the new members of the executive committee would be Commissioners Renee Flowers and Jamie Robinson. Then for the planning committee, the nominating committee recommends Commissioner Deborah Figgs Sanders to fill the vacancy, and Commissioner Michael Ferdovich as the alternate for that committee, the planning committee. For the legislative committee, Commissioner Jeff Gow would be added as an alternate. For the nominating committee, Commissioner Deborah Figgs Sanders. For the personnel committee, Commissioner Vince Cox. And then for Ford Pinellas, the recommendation is for Commissioner Gina Driscoll to be the PSTA appointee to Ford Pinellas. Now, the nominating committee, when it met, recognized that the city of St. Petersburg's St. Pete City Council will not vote officially on their nominations for who from St. Pete goes to Ford Pinellas. So in the event, which I don't think is the plan, but in the event that Commissioner Driscoll is appointed by the city of St. Petersburg, then Commissioner Flowers is the backup. That's just what the nominating committee decided back in November.
Mr. Zimmett?
Yeah, I just want to note that in the proposed appointments, there's no chair proposed for the legislative committee.
Yeah,
It
so
just
what is-
has-
That's right. At least the way, the PSTA committee structure, the individual committees choose their own chair and vice chair.
Right.
So that will be decided in January.
Okay.
Commissioner Figgs Sanders?
Thank you and good morning. Brad, I just want to confirm my status on the Personnel Committee. I know we talked about that yesterday and it was in question, and I just wanted to get clarification before we take an official vote today.
On personnel or nominating?
Personnel.
Right, I know that you and I talked about that yesterday. It does, it looks like you were being recommended to be on the nominating committee.
Okay, so I knew we had that conversation. I just wanted to make sure. Thank you
Right, so you do
much.
not have to come on Monday.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Commissioner Schulman?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This doesn't appear to me to be what I recall from the nominating committee meeting. I thought we had Commissioner Jeff Gow as the legislative representative instead of Kathleen Peters.
That's the way
I thought we had a pretty good conversation about that. So I'm surprised to see that there. I don't have minutes from that meeting.
I will check my notes. I remember that conversation too, and I think we switched it, did we not?
Yeah, I thought we had switched it to Commissioner Gow as being the on the legislative committee and Kathleen Peters as the alternate. Would remain as alternate.
Okay.
All right.
That was the only correction I had.
Okay.
Yes, Commissioner Long?
Well, I wanted to speak to that issue as well. And candidly, Commissioner Peters has missed a lot of our board meetings as well as our commission meetings, and I recognize her value as a former state legislator, but the legislative committee is a pretty important group. We have a lot at stake when the session starts, and if you're not here following what's been going on and what our needs and our mission is, I would prefer to see Commissioner Gow as the member and then Commissioner Peters as the alternate, because she's not here a lot anymore. And, you know, if you're going to be on this stuff, it's important to show up.
Well,
And
if you would
I
like to make that
recall
part of
us-
your motion,
What?
do that.
Just make that part of the motion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr.
Or whoever
Commissioner
made it.
Schulman.
Well, I move approval of the slate with the change that Commissioner Peters be moved, or be kept as alternate for legislative, and Commissioner Gow be moved into a permanent seat on the legislative committee.
Okay.
Okay. Do we have any public comment? I think I asked that already. No. Okay, will you open the voting mechanism, please? Boy, we are on the ball this morning.
Yeah.
All right, that is unanimous.
Great.
And all we have left is reports and correspondence. Brad?
Great. Great. Also in your packet is the performance scorecard that PSTA keeps track of that guides our organization's goals and objectives based on the board-adopted goals that are very large on the back of the wall there, for those you can see. And all of the employees of PSTA's performance evaluations are based on the performance scorecard system. In your packet, we had a very successful year, as was highlighted in the video at the beginning of the meeting, where we got a 98 on our performance scorecard. I think there's a paper copy at your places as well. So I'm very pleased with that, despite the pandemic. Very grateful for the hard work that staff has done throughout the year to make adjustments or do whatever is needed to keep things on track. This is also timing for the one performance evaluation that the PSTA board does, that's of myself. And as I mentioned to Commissioner Fig Sanders, or she does not have to attend, but there is a personnel committee, the first one of the year, on Monday, on the 13th. And at that meeting, the personnel committee will review the process that we follow for evaluating of all the employees and the CEO, and then they will approve of the one-page, very easy to fill out survey that will be sent to all the board members shortly after the meeting. That what your job is to evaluate me not on what I did or didn't do during the year. That is the scorecard. The scorecard basically shows results, which is worth 75% of my overall score. What you do, and this is the same thing that managers at PSTA do, you're evaluating me on how I did my job, on the guiding principles that PSTA has approved for employees at PSTA, on how we want them to do their job. Like, are they good at communication? Do they value developing of their workforce development and things like that? So you'll get this questionnaire. While you're thinking happy thoughts under the Christmas tree, you can fill it out and send it back into Rachel. And then the personnel committee meeting will meet again in January to review the results, and then it'll come back to the PSTA board at the January meeting. So that's in your packet. I also wanted to recognize or welcome I believe our only new PSTA board member in 2022 will be Commissioner Karen Seal, I think, if the County Commission approved that yesterday.
Yes, we did.
Good. She'll be here in January. We have a vaccine clinic, another vaccine clinic at PSTA tomorrow, 1:30 to 5:30, put on by the Department of Health right in this room. And they have everything. It's a buffet of vaccines. They have vaccines of all three kinds, Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, Moderna, boosters. They even will you can get a flu shot, I heard.
Oh.
Yeah, so, it's open to the public. There's no sign up needed for that. And then finally, at your places, I hope you all join me on Clearwater Beach for our next AVA service. It'll be running from December 15th until mid-February on Clearwater Beach, and the event, and where the start of the route is at the parking lot next to the Opal Sands Hotel, a very nice hotel, and then it goes sort of south from there, right along the water. And this will be a very, I think, exciting pilot demonstration of this autonomous technology that we're excited to start up there. So join me there. It's at 10 o'clock. And other than that, we will have, you can go out and see the Gillig electric bus and grab some punch and cookies and thank Janet Long for her service. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And Happy New Year, everyone. Do we have any, oh, sorry. Commissioner Cox.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I need to share some medical news about myself to our board. I found out a week ago that I have esophageal cancer. However, I got some very good news yesterday that it is not spread to any part of my body except it's in the esophagus. And it is squamous cell too, which is also good. And so my first appointment is a week from today at Moffitt, and I'm happy about that. And I was also happy to hear Ross say that we're looking back into getting TD funds to get individuals over to this world-renowned center to, you know, folks that don't have a means to get over there. And I think that's so important. And so let's push for that too. But I appreciate people do know on this board that I am, you know, undergoing this, but I'm very, very confident and thankful. Thank you.
All right. All right, Commissioner Schulman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Of course, what I have to say sounds pretty trivial after Commissioner Cox. I had a question actually about the scorecard. The notes that are provided aren't, there's some either information missing or just additional information that's needed. So for example, there's Org 2 information for quarters 1, 3, and 4. There's nothing for quarter 2. Org 4 is missing information as far as details, as far as what the quarter 2 through 4 goals were, which ones were met. So I was just hoping to get some more detail just to see how those were all tabulated. So hoping to see a note on each one of those. If a goal was met, understanding what that goal, it says what the goal was, but it doesn't always say how we met it. If that makes sense.
Good point. That would be a good addition
Right,
to
so
add,
like
yeah.
the for Org 2, for Q3 says we have 6 funding partnerships. Sorry, for Q2 says that we have 2 partnerships, but there's nothing listed in Q2 as what those 2 partnerships were.
Gotcha, yeah.
So just a little bit more information to provide a little better oversight. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Flowers.
Thank you. I just want to announce to the board that on February 10th, 11th, and 12th, there will be an affordable workforce housing conference. I've been putting it up on Facebook. But if any of you would like any additional information, I'll be more than happy to have my assistant email that to you and your colleagues in your respective places. Duke Energy is coming on board as a primary sponsor, and St. Pete College has come on board as a primary sponsor. It will be at the Epicenter. The 10th will be a meet and greet at the Dr. Carter G. Woodson African American Museum. How appropriate, since those 31 units will be torn down, making way for 60 plus new units. And then the rest of the time will be at the Epicenter. There will be some hands-on projects. The AFL-CIO will be bringing some of their virtual equipment so you can kind of see how to construct housing virtually. And PERC will be bringing out one of the tiny homes so people will get a better visual sense of how that works. So I am super excited. I am waiting on confirmation, but I am hopeful that former House of Representative member and my friend Alan Williams, who is now the Deputy Assistant Secretary for HUD in DC, is slated to be our speaker. So I've been working, honey. So I will get that information out to you all via email, and hopefully you and or any of your colleagues will be able to attend. It's going to be terrific. The breakout sessions are going to be wonderful. Councilmember Deborah Fix-Sanders also serves on the group that I kind of pulled together, representing, I have someone from Veterans Housing, someone from the Homeless Coalition. We have bankers that are coming in to do a full panel on some creative funding and financing and recognizing some of the financial issues that go along with homeownership. We also have some developers. You know, I have a little bit of everybody in the room for those breakout sessions, so we can talk about it, establish some next steps, and then present that in our finding report.
And what is the date?
February 10th, 11th, and 12th. The 10th is a meet and greet.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Uh-huh. That Thursday evening, 6 o'clock. The 11th is a full day, and breakfast, and 2 breakfasts, 1 lunch, and then I call it the snack energy pieces will be, registration is $75. So, but that includes your swag bag, all of your contents, your meals, entry in, and the meet and greet. And St. Pete College is also providing bus service, because we have some people that will be coming in. So they're allowing us to use their big MARTA bus, so you can hop on the bus if you stay at one of the hotels in the area and come on down to the Carter G, so you don't have to worry about transportation.
Great. Commissioner Long?
Well, I was curious, Renee, who is sponsoring that?
Duke Energy, well, it's something I did for just me, Renee Flowers, as Renee Flowers. But Duke Energy is one of my primary sponsors at $25,000, and St. Pete College has come in as a dual primary sponsor in that.
I was just curious, because I know the Regional Planning Council has been working on an affordable housing summit. And
I have about I'm sorry, and Habitat for Humanity came on board as a sponsor. There are about 4 other sponsors that I've been talking with, but I haven't gotten a definite, because there are different levels of sponsorship. But I'll send something to the Planning Council.
Yeah, well, I think it would be important, because I've forgotten the dates when they've been planning on it, but they've been working on it for over a year, and it's kind of, I mean, it'd be nice if we could somehow have a really big bang for the buck.
I'll get that information. We just kind of solidified everything. I didn't want to get information out and didn't quite have the financial pieces in place and all of the other things that come along with it. Protocols will be followed, safety protocols will be followed as it relates to hand sanitizer, masking, and spacing. That's per St. Pete College's rules and regulations we have to follow for their property. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, anything else? We are adjourned. Yeah, let's go look at the bus.
Yeah.
Will they turn it on for us? So we can not hear it?
Possibly, yeah.
Well, I knew that, but.
I thought.
Happy New Year, Alan.
Happy New Year. Have a great holiday.